Good morning, afternoon, and maybe evening to all you folks out there. It's Friday and you've made it to the end of the work week, and I bet you can't wait until the weekend. I'm your host, Joe from Price Tag Aquariums, and welcome to another live stream. And we're going to talk about quite a bit today. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I do. I thought about it actually on the drive home from work one day, and I thought this would be a good topic to talk about, and we could all play along and converse to whatever we have that comes to mind, and we'll get right to it here. First off, in my live stream, I would like to actually thank my current channel members, which is Tim. He has a couple names on here, but he's also a good friend of mine. And June is also still a current channel member, and Jesse as well from Salient Aquatics. So those are my current channel members. So I appreciate you guys being on here. I know that a lot of mine have dropped off, but that was because they were gifted, which is fine. But whoever gifted those during that time frame, I appreciate it. It helps the channel out a little bit, and it also makes me, get out there a little bit more. And I really appreciate the help from whoever gifted those memberships. And I also want to say hello to all the moderators that are on here with their little wrench icons next to their names. That whenever they pop in, here and there and stuff to watch my live streams, I want to thank each and every one of those guys. I know Jesse's one. I know Pure and Trimple's one. Maybe June, I'm not sure, but there's a couple other people. Oh, the Zen Ginger, I believe, is one of my moderators. So I know that each and every one of those people that pop in here and there just to come and hang out. So I do appreciate them just to help keep the chat flowing whenever things do get busy during my live stream. So I appreciate that. As far as any updates go in the fish room, it's been pretty quiet for me. I've been working this week, so there's not a whole lot that's been going on, and I have to work, unfortunately, this weekend, which is fine because this is my busy week. So all you lucky folks out there that are end of the work week and looking forward to the weekend, I hope you guys have some great football games to go to, and hopefully some baseball to watch, some playoffs, and anything else you guys are looking forward to enjoying with your friends and family and enjoying the weekend off while I'm working the weekend. But I have next week to look forward to because I have next week off. So when you guys are all going back to work, I'll just be chilling, relaxing, and hanging out in the fish room. So nice to see that the only person in here is my wife. But that's all good. Whoever watches the replay, at least we can get some information out of the way. But that's kind of like the updates here. I've had some new fish in the last few weeks or so, and they're all doing well for the most part. I've had some minor things here and there. My fire mouse still has some bladder issues, but I feel like he's kind of on his way out, and I've done everything I can to try to get him to live through it. But this morning when I came downstairs, it's more or less like he's hiding and not swimming around as much as he used to. My wife informed me that the fire mouth isn't eating, and it's also laying on its side every so often too. So that's probably not a good sign. But all the blue acara and the fire mouth replacements that I have passed away when I first started this tank up behind me, they're all doing well. They're still in their 30-day quarantine period at the moment. And also my new fish is going to go in my peacock and hap tank. So, but yeah, hey, Jesse, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the like. If you missed it, I wanted to thank you for being a channel member still and following me and also being a moderator for me. I appreciate it whenever things do get busy. But I just wanted to personally thank you for being here. And Jesse, I can comment on your videos, but I still can't go on your shorts, which kind of sucks. But yeah, thank you very much. So it's weird. So it seems like things are kind of slowly coming back to working again. So at least I can comment on your videos and your lives, but I still can't do it on your shorts yet. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the topic that I have for today. Looks like you can't either. Yeah, that's really bizarre. I don't know. YouTube needs to like get cracking down on some of this stuff because it's kind of annoying that like, I some of the shorts are very convenient. Obviously, in today's day and age, where people are just flying through shorts, and if I can't comment on them, then that's kind of inconvenient. So, but that's right. I was just about to say something, Jesse, about that. It's like, hey, it's like we're all put our shorts on the same way, and I was trying to think of something, and you beat me to it. So that's funny. I was thinking, how can I do this and make it sound funny? Apparently, I can't. I can't comment on your shorts, but they all go on the same way. I like it. Funny guy. But yeah, my topic for today is, I know that's only my wife and Jess in here. Jesse, feel free to say hello to my wife because she's the only one that's watching between you and her. And Fish Fam Link is on here just saying hello, of course. But I didn't even check to see who was live or not. I scheduled this, I don't know if it was yesterday or if it was 2 days ago. I can't remember. It might have been yesterday. So this is kind of like on the fly again. I'd really like to be able to schedule these things like a week in advance, but I haven't had time to be able to do that. So with my next week, I'm hopefully to get a hold of a couple people. Maybe we can do a live stream and collaboration together, hopefully in the future. So Jesse, you have 4 of them Oscars at normal $14 a piece. Are you telling me that's what you got? Maybe you can elaborate on that. I got all the rest Oscars they had and some other fish. That's cool. $14 a piece. Can't beat that. Looks like we got 3 people in here so far. Maybe I should just hang out for a little bit and just see who comes and rolls in. But I was wondering, Jesse, how your 255s are going. Are they still empty? I think I saw something, actually couldn't think of it, that your next live stream you're going to reveal what your fish are in those tanks. Oh no, Jesse, sorry, I didn't see the text before that. Sorry. Got some new fish. PetSmart having their 75% off remodeling sale. Oh, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, sorry I missed that first message. I got it now though. Remodeling, got 7 fish for $25. I swear, between you with your fish tanks and your fish, you get like the best deals in the world. More power to you, my friend. That's freaking awesome. Congratulations. That's great. So are you putting those Oscars in your 55s then? I'm taking it. Maybe along with something else. I did see a red tail shark. If I think that was a short that you came out with, because I had a little snip at the very end of your short that I saw. So I'm commenting on it now because I can't obviously on your short. So I thought I'd ask you about that. Seems like you're going to put that with those Oscars then. But except betas, and they're all getting new tanks and filtration. Wonderful. That's wonderful. That's good news then. I appreciate the info. You have in the 55 to grow out, and they will go in the 300 when it's ready. Sweet. So how big are they? Unless I missed that too, of course, if you don't mind me asking. I know you were talking about getting different fish, but honestly, if I saw like one of the fish that I'm looking for, like that are normally a lot more than what they, like if you go to like if you get 75% off, like say for example like a peacock or hap, and you buy a male, they're like normally 50 or $100, and they're selling for 75% off. I'm just like, well, that's a no-brainer. It's like I could try to get new fish in there, but if I see fish that's that cheap that are going to be more expensive than usual, then by all means, I support you every bit. Yep, I get it. I think it would be hard for me because I honestly think that my weakness for fish, since I'm raising peacocks and haps, and and I'm hoping to add my 5 into the upstairs. I think I have like a couple weeks left in their quarantine period, but I think the hardest fish for me to resist is frontosa, because every time I go to a store, like I want to get one so bad. I know I have some, obviously, but like, man, if I feel like I want to add more, and it's in the blue dolphins, in the albino blue dolphins. Like, I just love that mixture, and I think eventually I want to probably put some albino blue dolphins in the frontosa tank to mixture with the regular blue dolphins along with the frontosa. So I think that would be a good mixture. So those are kind of like my weakness. You know, I love frontosa just like as much as you love Oscars. So, but yeah. Yeah, if you, I don't know if Frontosa will get along with Oscars or not. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to see that soon in your tank. Jim's Fish, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Jesse says hello as well. We got 7 people in here. Like I said, it's probably a little bit early, but I know it's Friday. People are probably still at work. But happy Friday to everybody, and hoping you guys have some great plans for the weekend. Now that we got a few people rolling in, I wanted to talk about the topic today. And I don't want it to sound negative. You know, I want it to sound, and that's why I named it, you know, originally I was thinking, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, that I don't want to sound like fish keeping is like challenging, like in a bad way. I'm just saying, do we feel like, all right, that's cool. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for letting us know. Oh, convicts too. That's cool. I have yet to get a convict. I thought about putting them in here, but I decided not to. But the topic for today, anyways, I thought about it on the way home, and I was thinking to myself, you know, between how does fish keeping, and it's kind of like when you own like a cat or a dog or whatever pet that you want, it's kind of like you have a personal connection to them. And, you know, especially if you have them for a long time, say if you grew up with them as a kid and then, you know, they passed away, you know, we all grew up and they lived a full life and stuff, you know, it can be very, you know, it can be very, you know, bad, you know, it makes you feel bad because you had such a long time with them. But with fish keeping, it's so different. And I want to see how we can compare that to like, even like a hobby, like say if you hunt, or like say if you, because I know right around this time of year, it's hunting season for, I think it's bow season for deer, or any hobby like RC cars or whatever hobby you want to do. You know, I mean, with fish keeping, you're owning a pet too, but it's a hobby. So like, in my opinion, I feel like fish keeping is a hobby and a pet, you know, combined in itself. So, Jesse, you says, Happy Place going to send me some 7s when they're ready. That's cool. Yeah, I knew he had some. But so I kind of want to touch base on this because when you lose a fish, it's, you know, if you have them, you know, ever since, like, for example, if I've been raising these fish up since they were eggs in an egg tumbler, and I grew them up, you know, and I've had them for like 7, 8 years, maybe 15, you know, however long, you know, peacock and hap lives, usually around like 7 to 10 years, depending on the quality of, you know, the tanks and how often you do maintenance and stuff. But in the frontosas, they can live up to like 20 years or more, depending on, you know, the situation, like I just said. So, and that's why I got these frontosas small, because I want to see them grow up, you know, and get big. I don't just want to buy them big offhand, because it's kind of going to be like an accomplishment for me. But I'm kind of thinking in my head that, like, on my way home from work, that I feel like fish keeping is a very big challenge. And I wouldn't say it's bad, you know, but I feel like sometimes, in a sense, especially for new fish keepers, you don't want to overwhelm someone, but at the same time, you want to teach them enough information that they'll be okay whenever they start their first fish tank up. And I feel like it's a lot of stuff to take in, especially for somebody new, or maybe has been out of the hobby for a while and just now getting back into the hobby. I mean, it's a big decision on what size the tank is, what kind of fish you want, what decorations, filtration. I mean, there's a lot that's involved in owning fish, and there's a lot, you know, to think about. Hey, Brandon, appreciate you coming in. Yes, Jesse, lots of challenging fish keeping, but I find less is best. The less you mess with the tanks, the less problems. And yes, and that's one thing I've agreed with too. Ever since I messed with things a lot less, other than water changes, the better off things would be. And that was a solution to this tank. When I moved it downstairs and set everything up, I leave minimal time on for lights down here, but all the decorations stay right where they are. I wipe the glass down a little bit and then I do water changes and that's it. And this tank, because of how much fish is in it, the only thing I do is water changes in that tank and wipe the glass off. And, obviously do my filter maintenance every so often. But there's lots of ways, and Jesse knows all about this. But there's several ways you can mitigate the amount of time you spend on maintaining fish tanks. There's a lot of neat tricks, a lot of different things you can do with your filters, a lot of the different things to figure out as you learn and go along. Well, as opposed to like say if you start, or let's just say if you have a cat or a dog and, you have a kid with you and stuff and they're growing up with them, well, the only thing that they really have to worry about and, maintain, and even like as an adult, and anyone else can put any input in here. So that's why I wanted to start this conversation. Jorge, that's hilarious. Everyone's going to be, the funny thing about that, when you sent me that thing on Instagram, I was just laughing so hard because I ate Pop-Tarts, that same day, and it made me laugh. And there's some people that actually at work, because I eat Pop-Tarts at work sometimes, people call me Pop-Tart Joe. But that's hilarious. So some people might start calling me that. Henry. Hey, Henry, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you coming in. Haven't seen you in a while. But anyways, back to what I was talking about is that when you own a cat or a dog, a lot of times, yes, you have to potty train them when they're young and you have to make sure they're not ruffling up the house and stuff. But like for the most part, especially cats, they kind of take care of themselves, and you don't really have to keep an eye on them, a lot, for the most part. Now with dogs, there's a lot more to take care of because some of the dogs are more rambunctious than others. Dogs get bigger than cats. There's more to consider and stuff, but then you can take your dogs outside, you can play with them. But like for the most part, dogs can kind of, once they get potty trained and start growing up, they're a man's best friend. People love their pets. They love their dogs. They have a personal relationship with this individual dog or cat. And I get that, that's what people want. They want that sense of comfort of knowing that there's something else out there besides a human being that they can have a relationship with, and they'll have that connection. So, and like I said, for the most part, dogs and cats, once they maintain themselves, as long as they're not too rambunctious or they're not, from a bad area and they're well taken care of, they kind of like maintain themselves. Whereas fish keeping, like, I think this is what makes it so difficult. And sometimes fish keeping can be mistreated just because you hear all these horror stories about what people do to fish, if they don't want to do the hobby anymore, or if like, for example, like goldfish, I know sometimes, people use them as feeder fish, and that's, some people don't believe in that, and like just fish in general are used as feeder fish, to feed fish. And that, I know that can be difficult too. So, but I guess like me, like I'm thinking in terms of, I am literally the sole provider for making sure that these fish survive. Now with like pets and stuff, yes, you have to feed them, you have to clean up after them and stuff too, which is what we do with fish. But you have to keep like for like pets, like outside, and like dogs and cats and stuff. And I keep relating back to it because we don't have to take care of their filters. We don't have to change their waters, other than giving them fresh water in their bowl or whatever, they need. But like there's so much more that you have to do with fish tanks. And I feel like sometimes the challenge of fish keeping is people will buy fish tanks, and then as that further goes along and they're thinking, wow, this fish tank looks freaking awesome. Everything looks clear. Everything looks great. The fish are thriving and surviving. But as time progresses, they move things around and things get dirty, and you have to maintain things. And if you want things to keep looking well, you have to take care of the fish tank. You have to do your filter maintenance. You have to clean your propellers, your motors, and for all your filters, maintain them all. and keep everything, all the glass clean. You have to make sure that you don't overfeed your fish, just like with, you don't want to do with cats and dogs and too, of course. And even if you want to compare this to a hobby, I know you, like, if you go hunting, you gotta make sure you clean the barrels of your guns, and make sure that you're maintaining that everything's lubricated. If you have like different, like, I'm just trying to go from my experience. So like I see a lot of people that get into like RC cars and stuff, and so you got to make sure to maintain those. And with fish, I just feel there's a lot of challenges and a lot of stuff to put into it. But there's also, like Jesse has talked about several times in his live streams and his videos, that there's ways to make it easier for yourself. Pre-sponge on your intake filters, not keeping your lights on all day, maintaining your filters, making sure everything is crystal clear by adding any type of clarifiers that you may be interested in. There's just a lot involved. And I feel like that's one challenge that people don't realize coming into fish keeping, is that once the tank gets settled and it starts gaining that time, you have to maintain it. You can't just set the tank up and forget about it. That's something you have to constantly maintain on a regular basis, not just feed them food and water and then go play with them for the day, and then the day is over, you rinse and repeat sort of thing. So I kind of want to relay all that information to you guys and kind of get your guys' input on what you think about, is fish keeping the right first pet for someone to get into, or is it something or is this something that people should get into as they're older? Like, I want to hear your guys' preference. If because for me, I started this, a few years ago, 2019, 2020, something like that. And then I moved everything down here about a year ago, I think. I'll have to look back and see. But regardless, I know there's a lot of responsibility. And as I got my first, when I got my first fish tank, and then as I progressed into what I have now, there's a lot that's involved with it and a lot of stuff to maintain. And you have to be able to accept that challenge of being able to know everything you do to keep these fish alive. And I feel like, with my 2-year-old daughter, she's kind of learning to feed and stuff like that, but that's all she can do. Whereas, like, if we were to get like a cat as an example, that would be something, that she could, play with as a kitten and stuff. So she'd actually be able to interact with them. Whereas fish, it might be a little different. They can interact with her and she can feed them and stuff, but that's about it. Whereas she has more valuable time, I guess, in a sense, with like pets and stuff. So, so Henry, so you don't have any power still. How's everything going? Were you, what part are you from, Florida? Kind of let me know where you're at. Hopefully everything's going okay for you. Parents still don't have power either. I hope that, it seems like the hurricane wasn't a Category 5 in Florida, but I know that every hurricane just is not good. And I really hope that everyone in Florida, including a gamer buddy of mine, Leo, I was kind of hoping that, everything went well with him, because he was actually in the path of that hurricane. So I hope everyone's doing well and taking care of themselves. But Brandon says, my 4-year-old can hatch her own brine shrimp. That's fantastic. And I feel like when you teach kids at a younger age, it helps them a lot more in the future then. So that's kind of beneficial for that as well. And I think that's nice to do. Henry says, right now I have the generator running, one of the fridges, and the central air pump in the fish room. So that's good. Yep, that is good. But yeah, that's kind of like my topic for today. I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on how you feel about it. And I also, I'm glad you guys brought that up. I wanted to see how everyone is doing. So if there's anyone that was in Florida, I wanted to see how you guys were doing, how you're holding up. And if you guys did okay throughout, if you were near the hurricane and, with all the rain and all the potential damage that it, I haven't looked much into it yet, but I just know I had my mind, in good spirits. I tried to, make sure that, like, my buddy Leo, I got a hold of, I text him through Discord and made sure that he was doing okay, sort of thing. So, And Henry says he lives in, I don't know how to pronounce that, Henry, so I'm sorry. Titusville, Florida, is I pronouncing that correctly? Got hit by tornadoes. Okay. Now, is that close to where the main part of it hit? Because I've never heard of that part of Florida. So let me know if you would, please. Brandon says, I think the younger the fish keeper is, the easier it is to also teach them. Some of us old folks think we know it all. Yes, that is very true. Sometimes that does happen. But it's also really neat because there's, in my opinion, there's always something happening in the fish room, Brandon. And there's always something to learn, even if you've done fish keeping for 20 years. I mean, even if you've dived in saltwater too and stuff, I just feel like sometimes when you think you've seen it all, something else happens. And that's the other thing when you own cichlids, of course, especially like African cichlids. Sometimes when you thought you've seen it all, something else happens and you're like, oh, I've never seen this before. Or like, well, that's bizarre. Why did this fish all of a sudden react out of nowhere? Like I had that happen the other day with me, and it wasn't cichlids. It was my community tank upstairs. And sadly enough, one of my swordtails, like it probably was, I wasn't home when this happened, but like it was the one and only one of my swordtails, the multicolored swordtail, the only one that had the tail on the end of it. My wife came downstairs and it was on the floor. Probably was on the floor for a good few hours, and for no reason. None of the fish jump out of that fish tank, like ever. Like I've had maybe a couple of instances to where I've had it happen with my African cichlids, but we've always been around, thankfully, so we were just able to pick them back up and put them back in the tank, and they've been fine. But it's just so bizarre how we had that one swordtail just randomly we just saw on the floor. Like, oh, how did that happen? This tank is the most calm tank in the whole entire area in the fish room. They're not big fish. How does this fish randomly jump out? Like it just didn't make any sense. So, Jorge says, I guess your concern of the fish not showing themselves are no longer an issue. I guess your concern of the fish not showing themselves are no longer an issue. Yeah. So the eye of the storm went over my house. We live, in front of NASA. Okay. Well, the good thing is I'm glad to see that you're still here and that, hopefully you didn't get too much damage done. And, we hope that you, get power back soon. That's good that you've prepared yourself and got generators. So, I hope that you are doing well, and I hope that you take care of yourself in the next week or so and get power back, as soon as possible. But yeah, Brandon, when you learn new tips and trips constantly, even like for the people who are doing it, for 20 plus years, I mean, there's always, in my opinion, there's, even if you don't, like say, for example, like you've been doing for so long, you might find that little tweak that might be like, what, I didn't realize that. And sometimes it comes from a younger generation that they've learned from it, that the older, more experienced fish keeper is like, what, that makes sense. And I think that's the part of the hobby that I love too. So it's when it starts to get boring, it seems like more of a chore. Yeah. And in my opinion, that if fish keeping is boring and it seems more of a chore, then odds are you probably want to find a new way to not make it a bore, or probably move to a different hobby or a different pet. So that's a very good point, Brandon. Thanks for bringing that up. Because I feel like that's one thing that might be challenging for fish keeping is you don't want to make it boring for yourself, and you don't want to make it a chore thinking, oh crap, I got to service this canister filter, or I got to do this to my sump, or I haven't done service to my sponge filter. I want to put my hands in there. I just want to feed the fish and that sort of thing. So you have to make it a habit for yourself to, yes, I have to do this. And this is why I personally have an app on my phone to keep up to date with everything. So that way I can look and see, oh, you know what, when was the last time I serviced my FX6 or something like that? Then I can go look at my app and be like, well, it's been about, 3-4 months. I don't have a pre-sponge filter on the end of it. So it's just like, you almost have to think about that. Whereas I think that's why a lot of people in today's day and age, if you don't own African cichlids, they're moving more towards the planted aquariums because they kind of take care of themselves too with community fish, because it's easy. And the only thing you have to do is bare minimal water changes because of all the plants they have. They take care of the nitrates, and it's just one thing that I believe that a lot of people are going to. my my uncle and his wife, she's doing the planted aquarium stuff now, and she's come out with a couple of videos on her channel, and she loves the whole idea of having planted aquariums. And I believe she started doing Bunas. I think she had a 55 gallon that she wanted to start doing, but I can't recall if she started it yet. I'll probably have to ask her next time I see her. But yeah. Brandon's always pushing his own boundaries and trying new things, and that helps too. It really does. Um, oh, are you talking about? Oh, so is that what you're talking about? The one behind me? Okay. So you're talking about this one? Yeah. The fish are in there. Jorge, if I'm understanding you correctly. Um, yeah, it's I can move if you want me to. They are a little bit smaller in this one. They're not as big as the Mbunas, so maybe. And a lot of them they don't have their color out yet, too, Jorge. So that's why I'm kind of like, and I can move over and stuff, and I can maybe zoom in a little bit for you if you want to see some of the fish. But a lot of them are still like the fire mouse, and there's a couple blue acara in there, and the geophagus, the redhead topos, and the regular geophagus. They're still kind of that gray color, so maybe it might look kind of transparent, when looking at the background and everything here. So maybe that's why. Okay, Henry, we'll see you in a little bit. So you've been doing this for 23 years. Yep, and there's still stuff to learn. You never know whenever someone out there maybe has only been doing it for maybe as long as I have, so like 5 years, give or take or so, that I'm still learning. And it's amazing what I've come from one tank and all of a sudden having a fish room down in my basement. So, which is really cool. Yeah, now planted aquariums, it seems like seems to be getting more and more popular. Even when I go into fish stores, it seems like a lot of stores are getting more plants. All my local fish stores, and because a lot of your main stores like Petco and PetSmart and everything else, they really don't have a lot of plants available, as far as I've noticed in my area. A lot of your local fish stores will have more plants available, like Agna Aquatics and Aquatica. They have a ton of plants there. And even there's another place in my area called Box Aquatics. They have a ton of plants that you can buy from, and they seem to have a lot of knowledge about it. And they seem to be leaning more towards that because a lot of people like that, and they run themselves. And so the only reason to change water is when you're servicing the filters, so it makes sense. But yeah, there is some shortage of channel members on here. But I think a lot of my channel members at the time, they were gifted. So I think the only people that chose to be a channel member were Jesse, June, and my buddy Tim. So those are the only current channel members at the time. So I want to thank them again. I know I thanked them at the beginning of the live stream. But Jorge was saying, I was remembering you were concerned that whenever you live stream, the fish would not be out, but they've gotten used to you being there. Oh, so now they're over the front. That is correct. All right. So thank you for clearing that up, because I was getting kind of the gist of things, but that makes a lot more sense. So yeah, so the Mbunas, I'll tell you what, Jorge, and even Jesse told me this too. He said, just spend a lot of time in front of these tanks, especially my Mbunas. They might still, the only thing is when they hide is whenever we have people that, which is crazy to think about. They're used to seeing me here now and my wife and daughter. But when new people come in, like my brother, or people that just want to see the fish room, like family and stuff, a lot of them tend to hide a lot more. But now that, like you said, ever since I've been doing live streams, it's just so crazy. It just took some time and patience, and eventually it all started coming out again. This tank never hides. It's crazy. I could walk past this tank, anyone could walk past this tank. And that's why I'm really excited for these fish to get bigger, because nothing phases them. You walk by the tank and they don't even swim away. Nothing spooks them or nothing. Whereas the Mbuna tank, if you have new people here that aren't normally here, they'll kind of hide a little bit more. And especially the yellow labs, they love the rocks and stuff. But thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it. that makes more sense now. But yeah, it's so cool that, within time and patience, after being down here, since I moved my fish down here, it just took some time to get used to everything. And now, like, I never have a single problem with this tank. The only thing I do is water changes. I don't mess with the rocks. I do my filter maintenance and do water changes, and that's pretty much it. Feed them. They're all at the top. And I think one thing I want to point out too that's also helped me is instead of having hoods, like black hoods, like I have on this one here, I've changed this one over here on the top to a glass clear hood that you move up and down, so the fish can actually see when I'm feeding them. So I feel like that has helped tremendously as well, and I want to do that eventually with this one too. Um, but I think that'll help as well. So I appreciate you pointing that out. But yeah, I guess going back to my topic, like another thing that's hard to do with like hobbies and stuff is you have your pets and then you have your hobbies, but then fish is more of like a hobby and a pet at the same time. So that's why I feel like it can be challenging as well. And especially like when you take, when you're in a hobby and you have a problem with something, you can go to just about anybody, that can answer your question, or you can go to a hunting store or a whatever your hobby is store, and they can answer your question pretty thoroughly, because they know a lot about it. Whereas sometimes when you go to your major pet stores and not your local fish stores, they may not 100% know the right answer. And I think the hardest thing about that is when you have a sick fish, whatever it may be, whether it may be dropsy, popeye, swim bladder, ick. Ick is a pretty easy one to take care of because there's, certain diseases are easier to take care of than others. But like hole in the head and stuff, I mean, it takes a lot of time and patience. And I've had about a 50-50 mix of whenever fish get sick. Some of them make it, and then some of them I've done every possible thing I've like with this firemouth, for example. I've done everything I've possibly done. Give it salt baths, give it vitamins, change the water on a regular basis, more often regular basis, keep the tank clean. That's always an important thing. And that's where a lot of maintenance comes in too. And that's where it can be a challenge whenever you have a fish that's sick. You're trying so hard to get it better. And it's very difficult to almost key point that disease or key point exactly what you need for that reason. So for like as humans, we go to the doctor and they're like, oh yeah, you have this, you have XYZ or whatever you have you. And then they'll give you a prescription for it and it'll make you feel better. Or you have over the counter stuff whenever you have your common cold and stuff. If something happens to your dog or your cat, you take them to a vet. For fish, we don't have a fish veterinarian to take to, or whatever you want to call it. So you have to go with the fish community, and you have to go like on these live streams. If I have an issue, this is another reason why I started YouTube, is to get to know people. And if they have similar circumstances in their past or present that say, hey, if this is what's going on, here's what we can help you with. And that's basically all we have to go by, is going by people's experience. So I feel like that alone is also a challenge that's makes fish keeping somewhat, on the difficult edge. And I don't want to sound negative about fish keeping, but I feel like that's something that can maybe get people away from fish keeping because they don't know exactly how to treat a disease per se, as opposed to taking your pets, to the vet, or taking your guns or your RC cars or your four-wheelers. You can take them to a shop or whatever, and they'll take care of it for you, no problem. You just get them back, pay them something, and good to go. So Brandon says, we as fish keepers have to be that hub for the information. Yeah, and that's why I joined YouTube. We kind of have to take care of each other. And I think the hardest thing, well, I guess I should take that back, because one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times, even like groups and stuff, like especially I've noticed in like Facebook groups, there's some people that have decent amount of information, but you could get into some trouble with some groups because you might get like 50 comments about one problem that you have, and all those comments are 10 different things, and it could be overwhelming as a fish keeper too. So I feel like in the YouTube community, sometimes that might happen, but I feel like with Facebook and social media, it gets a little bit overwhelming in my opinion. So whenever we want to help each other with fish, just like Brandon, like what you're saying, we like to put ourselves out there to friends and family and that thoroughly enjoy talking about anything fish and never be afraid to reach out. And I think that's what helps with the YouTube. And it becomes, like you said, a huge resource. Um, so yeah, that's what I was getting into. Like I don't want to, I'm not going to get involved with that either. So I completely agree with you, Brandon. Um, that I think it's really difficult, like, to go on Facebook groups and find decent information that's actually going to be helpful, in a nutshell. So I think that's why in the community and YouTube, I think it's better to go, especially on these live streams, because that's, in all honesty, some of these live streams, when I go on other people's live streams, like even like higher people, like I guess I shouldn't say higher people because, I've met Ben Ochart, but that's the only like more in the higher end of subscribers that I've ever actually met and actually commented on. But like Jesse's live stream, Jorge's been on my live stream. I've connected with him a little bit. I've connected with other people through Discord, through Jesse's Discord, and just talking through YouTube. I feel like that has been my most reliable source ever, because if something happens or if I'm doing something, and even like some of the comments on my YouTube videos, nothing for I would say about 90% or more has been helpful, and very few has been like, okay, I'm just going to delete that comment, or they're just being that type of person. But I guess those are some of the challenges compared to like your normal hobby or your normal pets and stuff. That I think that's why sometimes fish keeping, when someone jumps into their first time, I'll come back to it after 10, 15 years of being out of it, that they don't realize that there's a lot more involved than just buying your fish, setting your tank up, and then maybe doing some maintenance every once in a while. I mean, there's just more to it. I mean, you have to watch your fish. You have to see how they react to different things, especially when you get into the cichlid hobby or even like the saltwater hobby, which I have not done. So there's a lot that's involved in every little thing. Even when you're changing water, the worst thing that could happen when you're changing water sometimes can be as simple as walking away. And then some next thing you know, your wife and daughter are distracted. Next thing you're like, oh crap, what's going on? And you like, thankfully I've only had that happen maybe once, but it could get as simple as, oh, you might have bumped the hot water, a little bit more than what you thought, as you're doing water changes and doing things at once. Myself personally, whenever I don't really like doing live streams when I'm doing tank maintenance. And the reason being is because I want to be fully focused on what I'm doing. And there's been times to where I've been so focused on doing water changes and keeping things, with the flow going. And I've actually made a record time of doing all my fish tanks down here in my fish room, and like with all the water changes and just doing water changes and maybe a little sponge filter maintenance here and there. It took me 3.5 hours by the time I got down here, got everything started, and then started doing water changes, and then got done with the last tank and put everything away. It was like 3.5 hours. Usually it takes me 4 to 4.5, but there's been times to where my wife and daughter came down and I had no idea they came in the door, because I was on the opposite room and I was looking down, grabbing a hose, and looked up and they were right in front of me. And it just, because I was so focused on watching everything and monitoring everything. So, I mean, it's a lot to take in, like I said before, with other hobbies, it's more of like a smaller window, I feel. Now, if anyone wants to comment about, an experience that they had and maybe compare it, then that's great. Or if maybe whenever the live stream's done, leave a comment down below and I'll answer as that as well. I want to hear from all your guys' experience and what you guys have, compared with as far as pets, hobbies, and then, see what you think. Do you feel like fish keeping is not as hard as other hobbies, or do you feel like it's still challenging to this state? And I wouldn't say hard, as far as difficulty, but I would say I want to keep thriving on the word, a challenge. And that's why I named that on my live stream today. Is I want you guys to tell me in the comments in the live stream, just like, everyone else has, that do you feel that it has been challenging? And do you feel like it is one of the more harder hobbies and pets to take care of, as opposed to cats or dogs or whatever your other hobby is, that it doesn't even have to be pets? Because in my own opinion, it's a lot to take in, and there's a big learning curve behind it. Even if you get one tank, simple 29 gallon, like my friend Tim did, put some community fish in. And when he started, he got like rainbow fish, because him and his daughter and his wife went out there and they picked out all the fish and stuff. And it was great. Well, then they all started dying, it's just like, what do you do? And it can be very frustrating whenever you first start a tank and you're really excited about it. And the next thing you know, within a week or so, your fish start dying. And it's a very challenging thing to do. Whereas if you buy a dog, or if you buy a cat, or if you buy a gun, or if you buy a four-wheeler, or if you buy a RC car, if you buy whatever your hobby is, it kind of takes care of itself for quite a while, and you don't really have to do a lot of maintaining, and you just have to take care of them in small steps. Whereas fish keeping, it's like a constant maintain sort of life cycle. But yeah, I want you guys to kind of tell me and let me know what your thoughts and what you think about everything. And that's kind of all I have to say at the moment. Brandon, if you're still here, maybe you can kind of share your experience. And I have 7 people watching currently. I don't have Facebook up at the moment, so I don't know if I haven't seen any Facebook comments show up on YouTube. So I'm not sure if I have to actually go to Facebook to actually see the comments. The only thing I see is my cousin liked the live stream on Facebook, and that's the only thing I've seen. So there are super stickers, super chats, and that helps support the channel too. I know that Eddie from Vibes, he's done that a few times, which is pretty cool. Brandon says fish keeping in the beginning was challenging, but when I started all this information on fish keeping, wasn't as readily available as it is today. Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot. Technology has come a long way, and I feel like that has helped in the fish keeping hobby because there is a lot more stuff that's readily available. I mean, look at the internet. There's so much stuff. I mean, you have Amazon Prime, and you can get things in like a day. So if you run out of something, it's even if you're not close to a local fish store, there's back in the day, the only knowledge you had, 10, 15, 20 years ago was going to your store and saying, hey, I have a question, whereas nowadays there's a lot of things that are readily available. So I feel like that is a plus on that. So that is nice to have. So I feel like fish keeping has gotten easier as opposed to like let's say back in the day, like 20 years ago. Do you think it's more challenging, back then to have fish as opposed to now? Because when I was a kid growing up, the only thing I knew was, well, the fish tank is dirty. Let's tear everything apart and clean it and then put everything back in, put the fish in a separate bowl and clean everything and then put it all back in. So that was me not knowing any better, that I was killing all my beneficial bacteria. So I feel like I said, the only knowledge that you had was going to a fish store and asking the person, that may or may not know the answer to. So we got Muppet929 says, I agree that the fact that you can't just bring your fish to the vet is a challenge, trying to diagnose and treat. So that's kind of how I feel too, Muppet. It's very interesting to try to figure out exactly what is going on with your fish. You have your physical features like your Popeye and sometimes even like ick, like you almost know, but then there's other diseases like someone who's relatively new to fish keeping. And honestly, in the last couple months, this is the first time I've seen swimmer's bladder. And I didn't even know that swimmer's bladder existed. So for me to see that, and the fish is like, oh, well, he's eating, but he's just not swimming that great. I'm just like, well, what the heck's going on? Then I looked things up and found out that swimmer's bladder is a disease too. And it's just one of those things I don't have much experience with. And so when that happens, I'm doing the best that I can. So it's, whenever you're doing everything that you look up, and a lot of the videos I've looked up actually hasn't been that helpful, because every video that I've looked up on YouTube that I've watched and seen, which is maybe like 3 or 4 or so here and there about swimmer's bladder, it seems like every one of those videos is different. Even when I went to Agna Aquatics near Cleveland and I talked to the guy if he's had experience with swimmer's bladder, and it's just like, there's really no, from my experience, that there's no like solid answer like, yes, this solves swimmer's bladder, give this to your fish. Whereas like if you take your pets to the vet, they're like, oh yeah, they almost know, they can diagnose exactly what's going on. They're going to give you this, put this in their food so they eat it, and then you'll start to see them change and get better. Brandon says, I feel like the hobby can be very intimidating at first, but once you start having success and learn the basics, ins and outs, it becomes second nature. So that's makes sense because going from my like in Buna tank as an example, for one, I didn't know how they reproduced, and two, didn't realize how aggressive certain fish can get and how to mitigate that aggression and take care of the filters, what size filters you need. So that's all a learning process, and it's very difficult. And I feel like that's when some people in the beginning process, they're like, oh, I'm just going to get these fish and put them in a tank and call it a day. Well, then the fish start dying, and then they're trying to figure out why. Then they realize, oh, these fish are getting picked on, and they buy fish from stores that like, I don't even know what this fish is. Well, why'd you buy them to begin with? When you go to a pet store and you go to a gun store, you know exactly what you're getting and stuff, and they'll tell you. Whereas like there's a lot of fish out there that, and that's why I personally try to separate my fish in each individual tank. I only have like maybe one tank that I have a mixture of fish in, and it was my fault because there was a lot of baby fry happening at that time. And it was just one of those dumb mistakes. I dumped them in the fry tank while there was other fry in there, and I was just like, wow. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So there's going to be a mixture of one of my tanks. But regardless, like Brandon said, that it can be very intimidating at first. But once you learn and you start to realize, you can almost see in your fish, like if they're happy or not. If you're say, oh, I'm behind on maintenance, or hey, it's easy when life takes over, or maybe you go on vacation, or maybe something happened in your family and you get behind on your fish keeping, or maybe just work life in general, can happen. And all of a sudden you're a week behind of what you were doing. It's easy to do as opposed to like other things that kind of maintain themselves. So that's one thing that you kind of have to look out for as well. But as you learn and progress, it gets easier as it goes along. And I feel like that's where some people tend to realize, oh, this isn't for me. They buy a fish tank, and then a few months later, 5, 6, 7 months later, they're like, no, this isn't for me. I'm getting into this fish tank. So it's just like, I think people have more of a connection to their hobbies and their cats and dogs as opposed to fish, because whenever a fish dies, and this sounds terrible, where do fish go after they die? I mean, do people bury their fish and have like a, memento gravestone for it? Probably not, unless you have a fish like a big fish, like an Oscar or a Frontosa that you've had for 20 years and it finally kicked the bucket. I mean, do you put them in the ground, have like a little, sort of like a memorial stone for them? And I don't know. I mean, I never have. We all know where fish go and they die. So I mean, as soon as they're dead, it's kind of like one of those. Is that another thing that's a challenge to do whenever fish die? It's a different feeling, I mean, it's just different. Brandon also says, I used to keep a lot of reptiles, and it was the same learning curve. It's very intimidating at first, but once you get your feet wet, it starts making sense. or once you start getting your fins wet, it makes more sense. So that could be too. No pun intended. But yeah, I appreciate all your comments in here, Brandon and Muppet and Jorge, if you're still in here. Appreciate your comment on here. Jesse, of course, he was in here. He's one of my moderators. Henry said he'd be back. Haven't seen him yet. I hope everyone in Florida is taking care of themselves and doing well. Yeah, whenever you get you get our fins wet. Yeah, I do too, Brandon. I really appreciate everyone coming in here. Right now, it's hard to kind of figure out a good time frame for me because I have a swing shift schedule, whereas I actually took some vacation time off of work. So on a benefit side, I want to get a hold of some people and do some live streams with them. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to have these planned out at certain times. And I'm probably going to start doing some more in the evenings now, because I think the last one I had was in the afternoon. It might have been at noon as well. I'd have to double check and see. But I haven't done an evening live stream for a little bit. And if it wasn't for that long. The last evening live stream I did that lasted a long time. I mean, it was a whole lot of fun. I had like 4 people on camera at the same time. We're all conversing and talking back and forth. And sometimes, even if there's not a lot of people watching us, when all 4 of us are talking back and forth, we all learn from each other. It was like Jorge, it was Jim from Every Place Aquatics, it was Jesse, and it was me. And then eventually we had Oh, what's his name? I have his name on here. Hold on a second. Um, let's see, or maybe I don't. But there was another guy. He shared all his discus and stuff. Joy of Fishkeeping, Jose. That's who it was. He got on here, and that was pretty cool because he was actually getting off work, and then he left, and he got home from work, and he came back on my live stream. And if I had some moderators on here, I'd have them post that live stream of. Well, it was pretty cool because he showed all his fish, and they were beautiful. He shared his life experiences with all of us, and it was really amazing. It was probably one of the best live streams I've had. So, Lepis says that just made me think. Having to euthanize your own fish is very challenging. I just had to euthanize a glow light tetra yesterday, new batch, and they aren't doing so well. All right, so Muppet, you got them. I did not get them from a hobbyist in the store. So yeah, that brings up a good point, Muppet. I appreciate you bringing that up. Let me think here for a second. It's hard to like make that decision that like if a fish is on its way, like my firemouth, like I hate the idea of him still being alive, but you don't want him to suffer. It's almost to the point to where like the last 3, 4, 5 days I'm constantly putting vitamins in there, but he's still suffering for. Like I had a fish that was suffering for almost a month from Popeye, and no matter what I did, it just wasn't happening. Eventually, it just died. So it's just like, that's a very good point, Muppet. Thanks for bringing that up. That it's hard to decide if you really should get rid of those or not, and should we just get a new one and see what happens and just get rid of the other ones? Not get rid of them. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean. Euthanize. We all know how we euthanize fish, but you almost feel like that's a better option as opposed to letting them suffer. It's kind of challenging, and I understand that. So that's a good point to bring up. Making that decision is never easy. I have to keep that part. Should it ever arise out of the eyes of my family. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, especially like when your family is involved, just as involved with fish keeping as you are, it's kind of like one of those things, just like pets, it's not great to get rid of a fish, especially if you really, really like an in particular fish. And every time you go to the fish tank, they're right in front, right up in front and center, just like with these Mbunas, like they have gotten a lot more comfortable, just like Jorge mentioned earlier. And it's just great to see, to be able to walk in front of the tank and see so many fish and so much color and so much activity. It's slowly becoming one of my favorite tanks again, and it's really neat to see. Hey, Jose. Speaking of Jose, yep. I already mentioned your name. That was good timing, man. Like I said, I was just talking about you, and when we were doing that live stream that last time, it was really cool to do. But thanks for stopping in while you're at work. So thanks for coming in. Jose was the one that I was talking about. He showed his discus off, and he showed all his different tanks that he had in his house when he was explaining to us that while he was right before leaving work, and then he always went back to his house, and we were still alive, so he got back on, and we showed his fish off, and it was a good time. It really was. But yeah, I mean, it's really neat to see all that happen, but it's also a challenge to decide if I should, euthanize a fish or let it struggle. So that makes sense. Any other experience that anyone want to share? Like maybe Jorge, if you want to share an experience with me while you're in here of a challenge that you might have had that you want to compare either to like something similar to a pet or a hobby, or maybe just fish keeping in general. Is there something that we want to try to keep things on a positive note and not sound negative too? And that was my whole purpose of this stream, is if there's a challenge that you want to bring up and how to overcome it, then that would be fantastic to share with the rest of the community. So that would be wonderful. If you're at work or if you're busy, though, that's fine too. But any input is very much appreciative. And we're coming up on the hour too, of course. So I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be on here, but we'll see how many people come in and how many people kind of share their experience and stuff. But yeah, it's been it's been fun doing this hobby so far, and with my YouTube experience, it's been very fun. It's been challenging. Creating this whole fish room was a challenge. I mean, holy cow! I mean, I couldn't believe. I still to this day can't believe I did all this. Making all my stands and stuff, and this is all learning from scratch, like just looking stuff up on YouTube. Um, I do the same thing though. Well, I mean, I haven't live streamed at work before, but I've watched other live streams while I'm at work because I work a swing shift and I'm going in on nights tonight. So a lot of times, like, if I have some free time or something, whatever I do to pass time and to stay awake on night shift, as long as we're active and stuff, I get it. Muppet, if you don't mind, we all kind of like to get to know each other on our live streams. If you wouldn't mind telling us who you are, that would be wonderful. But if you don't want to mention your name or something, that's fine too. Just something I'd ask you about because I have a list of all these names, people and stuff. So I kind of like to know everyone's names as we come on our live streams. But Jorge says there is a reality that seldom gets talked about, which is there is a point to where it's not cost effective to try and cure a fish than just buy another. That's a good point. It comes in some medications, especially if you can't pinpoint that exact medication for exactly what you need. I mean, because when you buy something like, as an example, like API General Cure, like this fish is sick and what's on the back kind of is what he has, but like are you 100% sure? Did you go to a marine biologist and ask him, hey, this is what I have? And he's going to say, yep, this is exactly what you need. And this is going to work. We don't have that luxury. So, API General Cure is like, yeah, there's some stuff on there, but it has like a lot of different things. So that's a good point. Like, is it worth spending like Maricin? I know Maricin's really expensive and you might try it out. Like I have a few fish medications that I've tried and has never worked. But I've also like ICX. Some people have different experience with the ICX. Every time that I have used ICX, it has worked for me every time. And I don't know why, but like I've done it 3 separate times in my fish keeping career, and it has worked for me every time. In my peacock and hab tank, it worked. And in a couple quarantine tanks down here, it's worked for me. So it comes down to a point to where how much are you willing to take care of this fish and medicate them, and how much money you're willing to spend. My male peacock is going nuts right now. I think he's trying to protect the female that's holding at the moment because he's not bothering the female that's holding at all, but he's just running circles around this female and following her around. But it's not hurting her at all, but like, and no fish is around him, but he is just wigging out. Holy smoke, I've never seen that happen before. It's not hurting her, but I feel like he's just kind of protecting her from anybody else. And all the other females, it's only one male per all the other females, but like that's weird. That's bizarre. He's kind of calmed down a little bit. Anyways, but yeah, there does come to a point to where how much it's really not cost effective to try and cure a fish and just buy another one. So I get this. So thank you for sharing that with us, Jorge. I appreciate it. He says, it's my fish room. Get it right. So Jorge says spending $30 on a $2 fish doesn't make sense. And I agree with that. So with my community tank, if you buy like neon tetras, mollies, for example, or any type of small community fish, I mean, like in my personal experience, like I really don't quarantine these fish, and it sounds terrible, but I'm a complete agreement with you, man, that like if you buy a fish for $2-3, when I know mollies and like tetras, they're readily available at almost any store. And if I know if one dies or if one is sick, like I really don't quarantine them. And I've had mollies die here and there, but I know how fast mollies reproduce, or like guppies or any type of fish that have a high reproduction rate. It's just something I don't worry about. The fish that I do have a concern with, this is my most expensive tank upstairs, is the peacock and hab tank, as far as fish wise goes, not tank wise and setup. So that, in my opinion, makes sense to me, and I am in complete agreement with you. Jillian, okay. I'm usually around in your stream and others, but usually I'm lurking. So yes, all right. So I will write you down on that list, so that way, whenever you come into my next live stream, which hopefully we'll have more in the future, then I can introduce you to people or say, "Hey, welcome in, Jillian." I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, but thanks for coming in. Like I said, I really like get to know people in my live streams, and I think it helps us all get to know each other, and it helps us all converse and get to learn from each other, and it's just a nice community. That's why I like this YouTube. It's good to know people. And for anyone else who's watching, Brandon, are you? By the way, if you're still in here, are you interested in doing a live stream? Because I don't think you and I have done a live stream together. If you're into that sort of thing. Okay, cool. So Jillian, all right, sweet, thank you. Hey, there's Tim. So Tim just got into the fish keeping hobby, and I kind of helped him out. He's got a 29 gallon with some community fish and stuff, so he's been in the hobby for I think a couple months maybe now. But thanks for coming in while you're on break. Appreciate it. You missed the whole entire conversation, Tim, but it's all good. And I appreciate you coming in. That's one of my channel members, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. If you want, are you on Jesse's Discord, Brandon? Because if you are, we can message each other back and forth, or you can hit me up on either Facebook or Instagram, and we can try to line something up. Because like I said, I have some vacation time taken off work. So I'm going to be actually off for the next couple of weeks. So I'm trying to get a hold of some people. And if other people want to do a live stream with me and do a collaboration, that's another reason why I want to go on this live stream as well, is to try to get on and see who wants to hang out for a little bit. Because I don't do a whole lot of collaborations as often as I'd like to, but I think it'd be fun to do. Okay. So I'll find you on there whenever I'm done, and then maybe we'll schedule something and get our schedules together, and maybe we can do a collaboration then in the next couple of weeks. Jose says, in my case, with that mini discus is cost effective with the discus, and you treat well because discus are expensive, and that's why I treat my my peacock and half tanks, because some like the males, they can range anywhere from $50 to $100 per fish, and when you buy even like a medication that's like $35 plus tax, and you can use it maybe, I don't know, 10 times or so, and you maybe have to continue doing it, or like ICAX, it might cost $15, $20 or something like that, then I can see it's more cost effective. Whereas, I mean, there's a lot involved too. Like if you want to give your fish salt baths and stuff, or whatever medication it is, in my opinion, like with discus, like you said, Jose, that makes total sense. So, but with like a $2 fish, like Jose was talking about, or not Jose, sorry, but like Jorge was talking about, it's just not feasible to, even not cost effective, I guess, in better terms, to treat a $2, $3, $4, or $5 fish. And I think my limit would be like, whenever I buy, like I have one peacock over here, I think I paid like $40 for. I feel like $35, $40 is kind of like where I would start to really think about, hey, I'm going to treat this fish, as opposed to like, if it was like $20 or under, it's probably like one of those, let's just not worry about it. We'll euthanize the fish, and then we'll move on and get something else to replace it. That's what I'm going to do with my swordfish upstairs, the one that jumped out, unfortunately, which is, I don't even know why it did. It just sounds so stupid, but I'm probably going to replace that and buy a few others. So it's just like, to me, like if someone dies in my community fish tank, it's just kind of like, it is what it is. I'll go buy another one. It's only going to cost me like a couple bucks per fish, and I still love my community fish tank. It's one of the first fish tanks you see when you first enter my house. So, so we could organize something too then. I know that Jorge is coming as a guest with Jose and Jim and everything else. So, hey, Crazy is Rainer. So what's going on, Rainer? Thanks for stopping by. For anyone who hasn't liked or anything like that, it's free to do. So if you want to give me a like and on the live stream, I appreciate it. Yeah. So your discus, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like your full grown, full color discus, or if they're like $200-$300 a pop, I mean, that totally makes sense. It's totally worth it. Even if you spend $30 to $50 to medicate the fish, I mean, it's better than losing a a fish that's that expensive. So yeah, that totally makes sense. I've done that before to where I'll have like a small conversation in the beginning, Brandon, and today I don't have the time to do it because I have to get ready for night shift tonight, and we got to get groceries too. So, but I think on my next live stream, you and I could kind of get together, and then we could have Jorge join in. We could have Jose join in, Joey Fishkeeping, because I really do enjoy that, and I think we get a lot of information out, and it's fun to get to know these people. And I feel like whenever I don't have people like on my live, I kind of miss it, because I like talking to these people and stuff because it's fun to see, it's fun to watch, and actually put a face to a name. So, yeah, I could always do an open panel. I've done that before where I just say, hey, Friday night hangout. So that's mostly whenever I do like Friday night hangouts or whatever night hangouts, and I'll post that on my live stream. That's basically me coming in for like 15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever to talk about whatever updates I have. And then I put on my link and leave it open for whoever wants to join in. I will put a link on here now. If you want to join in for a few minutes, that's great. But I probably won't go much longer than 30 minutes because I don't have a whole lot left to say. But a lot of your guys' inputs that you have put in has actually been very, very helpful. I appreciate everybody's input. And for anyone who's watching the replay or anyone that continues to watch my content, feel free to message me if you have any experiences. I mean, like I said, I've always said before, you can always message me on Discord. You can message me on Facebook. You can message me on Instagram. I'm a pretty laid back person. If you message me, I'll more than likely get back to you, but don't just say like, hi, just say, hey, this is me from the live stream. I really liked it. Or say, hey, I watched your video and I wanted to comment about it, and then say, I'm interested in doing a live stream with you. Or say, hey, put some sentences together to say, hey, why you're messaging me. And then we can get together and go from there. Joy of Fishkeeping, I will make you a moderator. I will do that. Let me, Brandon, that's fine. You're at work. That's cool. Let me see if, I think I have to go on YouTube to make you a moderator because I'm only on, let me give me 1 second here, Jose, and let me go to my live stream, and then I think I can do it from there if I'm not mistaken, because I don't know if I can do it through StreamYard. So give me a second here, guys. I believe that's only, yes, you have to do it on YouTube. All right, thanks, Jorge. Appreciate it. All right, so let me go. I didn't have YouTube up, so give me just a second. View channel. Here's my current live. I'm probably gonna have to mute this here. There we go. Go to Joy and add as moderator and managing moderator and save. There you go, Joy. You are now currently a moderator. So I appreciate it. So yeah, another thing I want to mention too, I did put the link in if anyone wants to join in for a few minutes ago, just to say hi, say, a few things, about the channel or about yourself, or if you want to introduce yourself, you feel free. If not, no big deal. But Jose is a moderator now. I really much appreciate it because it definitely helps the channel out, especially when things start to get busy. I get more people watching. And if someone has a question, it does make the chat move a little bit smoother. So that way, if I don't get to it, that they can answer the questions for me. And if there's anything, any videos or any live stuff, or if there's anything that, if I'm talking about something, I say, hey, in this video, I did this, and they can go into my channel and post a link on the chat. So that way I don't have to take that time to do it, and they can do it for me. And it helps keep the chat rolling and keep it smooth. Yeah, watch out. Jose's got a wrench now. But for everyone else who's watching right now, I want to personally thank each and every one of you guys and all you beautiful people that has started watching me from the beginning and has joined in, you know, as the time has progressed and has followed me, has liked my videos, watched my videos, watched my live streams. I've gotten to know a lot of people through the live streams, and I feel like I gained a lot of information, a lot of good different techniques, a lot of different information on how to take care of fish, how to, I guess, like for example, for this video in this live stream is how to take care of your fish and compare it to, other pets or other hobbies, and how you feel about the situation, because we're all here to learning. We're all here to get to know each other and get the best information possible, and most of all, just enjoy each other's company. You know, and I really want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming and hanging out and really supporting me, because it's been a lot of fun so far, and I feel like I don't thank you guys enough, because you guys are all wonderful for coming in and joining live, and you guys really do make a difference in making me want to continue this YouTube journey. Um, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. I've made the subscriber count. I'm trying to get the watch hours up a little bit, so I'm trying to post more shorts. And with these next couple of weeks, I should be able to post more shorts, more videos. I have a video coming out probably in about a week or so from a company that they gave me a product for. I did a Higer product, and if it wasn't for all this, um, and for all you guys coming in here, I really do appreciate you guys coming in, and that's just really coming from here that I really like doing this still, and it really the passion still hasn't died for me, and I really appreciate it. Um, any tips for framing a Z-shaped rack? One corner is only 2 millimeters between tanks. I do not have any personal experience in making a Z-shaped rack. You could maybe ask Jorge. Maybe he's made some racks similar to that. Um, I've only made rectangular racks myself, and they're up my 10s and 20 gallons. And everything else, due to a limit of time, I bought industrial shelving because it was the quickest thing that I could do at the time. So, yeah, Brandon says, hi, Rainer. But yeah, that's kind of like what I want to say in a nutshell. Is like, I really appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out with me, and I want to make sure at the end of every live stream and videos, that's why I say thanks for coming and hanging out with me for a little bit. And if you watch the full videos, that I do appreciate it. It gives me more watch time hours. And even if like you don't watch it, it's nice to have that time, that I'm going to keep trying to do and keep trying to get the full monetization, sort of process. So hopefully I can get that, in the next month or so. But I think I am going to end this live stream for now. I got a couple of things I need to do before I go to work tonight. But I do want to say thanks again. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. I get to know you guys here in chat, on live, and helping me out throughout this journey. You guys are the best. And you can ask only if you like the game. If I use duct tape and I pray to put things together. but yeah, that's funny. But anyways, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. You guys are the best. Brandon, I'll try to get with you here shortly so we can get another live stream together, and then we'll keep in touch. Like Jorge, we'll try to bring you in as well, maybe on that same live stream at the same time. So and good luck with that too, Rainer. Hope it goes well for you. Everyone in Florida, take care of themselves. Everyone else, have a great weekend. Have a great, last day of work. Have a great next few days. And we will see you again very soon. And I'll catch you on the other channels. Bye, everybody. Take care.